Good time. Excellent. That's what we like to hear. My name is Tony Kay. I'm a freelance writer based here in Seattle. I write about film and music for a couple of different outlets, and I am absolutely stoked and psyched and thrilled to be doing this panel. In addition to creating a classic horror movie and a very lucrative franchise when Wes Craven created this thing, he also created a mini universe, and it showcased a lot of talented people, including these three wonderful people who are coming up on stage right now. Please welcome Lisa Zane, Lisa Wilcox, and Sagoes. Welcome. No, not at all. In fact, I wanted to ask if you're okay with being maskless. I'm okay with being maskless. Amen. Yeah, last week I had a disposable N95 that was so tight I had like oxygen marks on the side of my face. I was calling myself Seal for like an hour. I mean, literally, it took like 45 minutes from the thing. But anyway, enough about my N95 mask. Thank you for coming, all three of you.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. What has the experience been like? Have you done many conventions since COVID kind of has tapered a little bit?
Seems to be picking up. I think I did one or two so far.
Super.
It's been good, yeah. It seems fun.
And Lisa Wilcox.
Probably done over 50,000 miles this year
Oh,
already.
wow.
Yeah, so it's been an avalanche of appearances and conventions, and so I'm very happy, and I have another 50,000 miles to go.
And Ken, how about you? Have you done any
This
since?
is my third one. Did I do one with you?
This year, I think we did.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
it Chattanooga or something like that?
Kansas. It was another
Kansas,
Crypticon.
another cryptic. Yeah,
I'm-
Kansas.
It's these cryptids that get me. Yeah, so this is my third one.
Awesome. Well, I'm always interested in origin stories anyway, so I'm very intrigued just by how the three of you got started in acting in general. I mean, I know that between the three of you, there's some very prestigious studies that have happened. I mean, I was astonished reading your bio, Ken, and reading how you had studied under Marlon Brando, and I think it was Edmund Cambridge.
Ed Cambridge, yes.
Yeah, who is the founder of the Negro Ensemble Company and the Kilpatrick Cambridge Theater Art School, which are like a big frickin' deal. So please, spill. What was that like?
It was like, I have to say that I've been blessed because, to be able to study with Marlon Brando and then Edmund Cambridge, who was the founder of the Negro Ensemble Company, which is the biggest black theater company in New York, where Cecily Tyson, Sidney Poitier, all of them came out of this company. And so then with Marlon Brando, who was an accident because I was working at Universal Studios where I was a security guard, and I got a chance to meet all the greats like Alfred Hitchcock, Marlon Brando, and then Telly Savalas let me take his workshop after I messed up his car. But I've been blessed along the way, and I guess I can say honesty. You just being honest, and they either felt sorry for me or wanted me to work off some payments. So I like to believe that they saw something in me, and the payback was that as I go through life to give back, which a subway into why I started an organization called Giving Back, where I pay for kids' books when they go to college.
And how about you, Lisa Wilcox, your early experiences as a budding actor?
My first experience as an actress, I'm from Missouri, and I did a play in 9th grade, MASH. You know the TV show MASH? Well, yeah, it was actually a Broadway play at one time.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, so we're doing this, little high school in Washington, Missouri, and I got a role, Ms. Randazzle. So the part is like what the name sounds like. Okay, I'm basically a secretary. Yes, when they called them secretaries, it's MASH times. And I have this stiletto skirt and the high heels and it was just 2 scenes, and it was basically comic relief kind of thing. And so I'm supposed to sit on the desk of my boss and, this, and steno pad, the steno pad and all that. Okay, so it's 400 people out in the audience, and the scene is performed in front of the curtain, and I'm walking, and you know what footlights are? Footlights, they're either up for lighting or they're locked and down. Well, one of them was not locked, and I'm strutting along, right? And my foot, it opened, I have to step, my foot goes down, center stage, and the audience is thinking this is part of the act, okay? And they're laughing and this and that. I'm stuck. My shoe is strappy thing dangling off my ankle. I am trapped by this footlight. So finally backstage, I realize something is amiss. Something's going on. So the guy who's playing Hawkeye sticks his head out and goes, oh my. He helps to free me from the nasty footlight. And during this time, the boss guy and I are improvising, and he's like, well, you had a little too much to drink there, Ms. Randazzle. You know what I mean? So it was really fun, actually. Anyway, I'm free. We do the scene. So that was my introduction to acting. Now, and I decided that wasn't for me. And shortly thereafter, my father was offered a great job in Southern California, Newport Beach. So we're there, and a friend had an audition at Buddy Ebsen's theater in Newport Beach and asked me, hey, Lisa, you want to come along? I said, sure, why not? So I'm just there in the theater watching the auditions, and the producer of this production kept tapping me on the shoulder and tapping me. She was very persistent and kept saying, you're auditioning, right? You're auditioning. I'm like, no, thank you, no. Anyway, I finally auditioned, and I got the lead role of Girl in Lanford Wilson's play, The Hot Owl Baltimore. So that's when I definitely got bit by the bug, and since then did equity waiver while going to high school, continued on to UCLA, theater arts degree, and that's my story.
Lisa Zane, I know you came from a kind of a family that really was immersed in show business.
Yeah,
Wasn't your mother?
not show business,
Well,
but theater.
Theater, thank you.
Yeah, I grew up in Chicago, and there's a really vibrant community theater scene there, especially in, I guess, 50s, 60s, when my parents were in their 30s and whatnot. So they did a lot of plays. And so, as kids, we were always cueing them and going to the cast parties, and it was just sort of part of the fabric of our life, and it was fun. And they also loved movies. They took us to movies constantly. They loved musicals. It was a very sort of theatrical family, just, they were ebullient and, fun, basically. Anyway, so I did a lot of theater in high school. And then when I was going off to college, though, everyone was like, oh, you're going to be an actress, right? I was like, I don't know. I think I want to be an English major. I want to be a writer. I want to do something else. Anyway, so I went off to college in upstate New York. And, fall, my first semester, I went down to this city, and Sweeney Todd was on Broadway. And I saw it. I was like 8th row center. I stood in line to get I managed to get an amazing seat. And it blew me away, and I was like, I don't know if I wanted to have composed it, written it, directed it, or be all the people in it. I just didn't know. I thought, I'm going to be a drama major. That's it. There's this one. Well, I don't know. Maybe some of you know Sweeney Todd, but there's this thing called that's what I thought. There's this thing The soliloquy, or whatever it's called, that Len Carey was the original Sweeney Todd on Broadway. It was amazing. And, when he's singing, they all deserve to die, whatever, there's this one moment where he goes, no one's in the chair, come on. And he literally pointed to me and said, no one's in the chair, come on. And I'm like, I'm coming. It just changed me at that moment.
The literal lure of the theater.
Literally. And so drama major I was, and then I just moved on after that and just kept doing it and was completely dedicated to doing it after that. Moved to Hollywood a few years later. Did some plays first, Chicago and New York. And that was that.
Super. So you all have obviously had an ample theater background. What was the segue into film and TV like for each of you respectively? How did that kind of come about? Ken, if you could start.
My subway, like I said, I was a security guard at Universal, and my subway was I became a staff writer for Paramount, and with Gary Marsh. I don't know if y'all remember Happy Days with Barney and Shirley.
Wow.
But I had written, at the time they was doing these showcases for actors to go and be seen by casting directors, producers, and directors, during the lunch hour. And there wasn't any scenes for black actors. So I wrote my own scene, and it turned out that a friend of someone told Gary Marshall, and Gary Marshall was in the audience. And so I was working at Universal Studios like from 12 to 7 in the morning. So when I get home around 8 o'clock, I was going to sleep because I had to catch 3 buses to get home. So I got home and the telephone rang, and the lady said, "Can you hold please for Gary Marshall?" And I thought it was some of my friends in Atlanta playing a joke on me. Because you gotta remember, in college you come home, you watch Laverne Shirley, you watch Happy Days. And he said, "Hi, Ken." I said, "Oh yeah, Gary, can you hold on for a minute?" So because I was half asleep, and he said, "Yeah," and I hung up the phone. And so for years he used to taunt me with that. So I got my first job on Laverne and Shirley. I co-wrote 2 episodes.
Oh, wow.
And and from there, doing that same showcase, Lisa Layton had saw me, and she put me in a movie with Jonathan Winters. And so that was my first piece called Say Yes with Jonathan Winters. And God blessed me to move on from there.
What about you, Lisa Wilcox?
What was the question?
I'm
just mesmerized.
You tell such good stories, Ken. We're all distracted. It was how you kind of segued from doing theater to film and television.
Well, it's kind of like, so UCLA, it's Los Angeles, and it was all theater. I'd done some commercials, thank God, because they paid my tuition and my apartment and everything those 4 years. And so, but through doing theater, I got a manager and agent from UCLA, and so they started submitting me for, TV and whatnot. At UCLA, I did take a film class, so I could learn camera a little bit, But yeah, right out of UCLA, I booked a recurring role on General Hospital, and boy, is that a quick place to learn. Oh. You have so many lines to memorize. You have that night before to do it, and you get one take, that's it. And so that's where I learned how it works. How to be prepared, and camera angles and lighting, and it's like the pace is like that. So
completely different than now. We had to study.
Yeah, memorize.
And what about you, Miss Zane?
Well, I was lucky that when I got to Hollywood, I had an agent from Chicago because I'd been doing some plays there. And so, I just started auditioning, and got a romantic comedy, a lead in a romantic comedy, like within the first year. This little movie opposite John Grise, who's a wonderful actor. And, we were in our mid-20s, and it was just a blast, and it kind of picked up from there. But what you said reminded me of when I was cast in L.A. Law. I had done sort of a couple of movies before then, and then that was my first television, and I was way laissez-faire. I didn't realize to what extent they just throw new pages at you.
Yeah.
And I was totally not prepared. I can memorize this. All of a sudden, I am on the spot with and I was a lawyer, so I had all this legalese, and I was like,
jeez.
Oh no! I'm gonna get fired. What am I gonna do? So I just I just learned really fast, and having to do the dance floor, then you go here and you say that line there, and you say those two lines there, and then you win the case. And I'm like, okay, I'm so not prepared.
Oh my gosh!
And everyone's waiting, and I did the tension of television, which wasn't like independent movies, not the case, So that was like exactly what you said. So I learned fast to, know them inside out the night before. Just do whatever you need to do.
And episodic, I think, is the hardest of all. Yeah. Sitcoms are the easiest, the most fun. It's like doing a mini play.
I've never done a sitcom. I would love to.
Oh my gosh, so
blast,
much fun.
Right?
You have all 5 days, and you rehearse together, and the network comes down, and the writers and producers, and they watch what we've done, and then they make notes, and then they give you new material to learn.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, in the spot here.
Yeah,
5
and
minutes.
there's like you have to be like a machine to like just absorb it.
But isn't it true that after a while you literally can just like scan a page and then, all right, I'm ready.
With practice, it's like the
It's really
muscle
weird.
and stuff.
But
Yeah,
isn't
and muscle.
soap hard?
It's
Huh?
a muscle.
Soap.
Soaps are probably the most difficult, but
Oh, God.
episodic is also hard because a lot of times you're doing location shooting and you're driving to some place you've never been to, and then they do a move to in the afternoon after lunch to another place, and then here's some more lines
all
to do, and then you're just
You're like
like,
caked.
you're right, you're caked.
That's the worst part, is like after a long day and your face just feels like it weighs a ton from all the constant reapplying of makeup on old makeup. Like there's, it's not like they wash
Yeah.
your face and start again. It's just
Yeah.
like more touch-ups, more touch-ups.
Yeah.
And after 12 hours, you're doing like,
You're all like, ooh, you want to do that. Yeah, and again, sitcoms too, it's like a play. You rehearse all week, and then
Yes.
Friday you have a live audience.
Yeah.
like a
Play.
cool.
And then
Very
they
much like
react
a play.
and this and that, and you do, it's, I love sitcoms. Anyway.
Plus everyone's laughing all day as opposed to like.
Yes, you get an
Yeah.
audience response,
Yeah.
which is with theater background.
Nice.
Love that.
And Ken, you did What's Happening Now, the spinoff series for the immortal sitcom What's
Yes,
Happening.
so
So
you-
you're the sitcom man
So
here.
you're simply making me old up here.
We are all within a stone's throw of the same age.
Can
So
I tell you
yes.
a quick story? When you all was talking, when I first came out, I came from a kind of a religious family. So I had a friend that had been out here 2 or 3 years before I came out here. So I came out here and I was trying to get an audition. I finally got this audition on Hill Street Blues.
Mm.
And it was for and I could not find my friend, and my mama was worried about me. So I got an audition, and it was for a transvestite hooker. Back then, you dressed the part when you went in on audition.
That's right.
Oh, yes.
So
I would pay good bank to see that.
I had a friend that fixed me up like a transvestite hooker. And, I was fine, And then I had to get some gas. Of all the days and the time that I'm getting gas, my friend pulls up and he says, "Kenny," and I tried as hard as I could to convince him I was going on an audition. And I went on the audition, and the character's name was Kenny.
Of course it was.
And I got home. It was like everybody in Atlanta that knew me had called me. They called me all kinds of names. Said, "You done got up there, you done went crazy." My mama was crying. She was crying. She was saying, "Baby, just come home. Just come home. Talk to us." Pastor called me, and I kept,
That's great.
having a high-pitched voice didn't help. And my friend, it turned out later he was gay. But I just had to tell that story when you
That's
were on.
great.
Good one.
Good one, Ken.
Okay, I shut up. I got a lot.
Yeah, just come, exactly. Your book is going to be called Just Come Home, Baby.
No questions asked.
You heard it here first. Speaking of actually interesting showbiz stories, the way that especially Ken, you and Lisa, I feel so awkward going Lisa Wilcox and Lisa Zane, Lisa
You
one,
just
Lisa
say
two.
Wilcox and Zane.
Yeah.
Okay, Wilcox.
Am I in trouble?
See, exactly. You and Ken both, I think, have very interesting stories. Some people may have heard them, some people may not have, but just your stories behind your auditions for the respective Elm Street movies that you appeared in are pretty terrific, and I, for one, would be happy to hear them again. Would you mind imparting the mythology and the story, the saga behind both of your auditions for Elm Street?
You want to go? Okay.
Mine is too much like the story I just told.
You auditioned in drag.
No.
I know, I didn't hear that part.
I only tell this story so when it comes out on the Inquirer.
That's great. Oh my goodness. So my story is So I'm doing some guest stars, you know, and building my resume, but I don't have a lot on it. You know, I most, you know, theater like this, but as far as, so my manager tells me he submitted me for the role of Nightmare on Elm Street for the Dream Master, and I'm so excited because I'm been a horror fan since I was little. I knew the Nightmare on Elm Street series, you know, the whole thing. So I was super excited, and then he says a few weeks later, he's like, well, they're not going to audition you because you have to understand back in those days, okay, and it's still you're submitted by computer now, but it's an 8x10 photo, black and white, okay. And I have this photo, this 8x10 that was submitted for the role of Alice. I am barbizoned out, 80s makeup. I have virgin blonde hair. I look like a cheerleader, and you know, it's like, and so not exactly what they were picturing for Alice, right? Okay, so Annette Benson, the casting director who cast Nightmare 1 through 5, she told me the story that they literally auditioned hundreds of actresses for the role of Alice. They couldn't find her. So they went through the reject pile. Hi. Hi. So I finally had the opportunity to audition. Now, I read the script. I loved the script. I understood Alice, you know. So I went in with no makeup and like dirty hair. I wore pale yellow, which is my worst color, and went in and I acted, you know, and I did it. And I had a callback. I read the scene with Tuesday night, the callback scene. Read a scene, and Rennie was there, of course, too. So it was a callback on a Friday. I was getting married that Sunday. 150 people, wedding, okay? On my honeymoon, and learned I got in the role of Alice. Yes.
And now Lisa Zane, you were...
My friends call me Zane. So.
All right. We'll call it good then, Zane. You had already amassed a pretty impressive resume of kind of motion picture work by the time Freddy's Dead came around. Was it
Well,
a more...
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, was it a more routine audition
It
process?
wasn't an audition. I amassed enough, apparently, to be offered the role, so
Wow.
that was
Right on.
nice. But I hadn't amassed very much, actually. I had 1 or 2 movies. But anyway, I was delighted. I mean, I was delighted to have the offer. But I was hesitant because I wasn't sure about... I mean, I hadn't really... I think I might have watched the first one, but I wasn't, necessarily that... attuned to the whole, universe of it, say. And so I was kind of mulling it over, and I called my friend Vanya, who I used to call when I needed advice about things. And she said, "Are you crazy? Take that movie right now. Don't even think about it. Take it." I said, "Well, why?" She said, "Horror fans will never abandon you." And was she right? Here I am, 1,000 years later. I know, she was so right. And I said, "All right, I'll do it." And then it was a blast. I was like, of course, why did I even hesitate? This is fantastic. It was it was intense. It was I worked every single day of 10 weeks, and that was new. That was just like
you were
full
totally
immersion.
at the center of the movie.
It was
yeah.
really, it was really great. It was really a learning experience.
Speaking of learning experiences, all 3 of you on your respective movies worked with some very interesting and talented directors. Ken, you had a chance to work with Rennie Harlan, and Chuck Russell, I think, did the 3rd one.
Yeah.
And of course, Ms. Wilcox worked with Rennie Harlan as well. And Lisa, you got...
And Stephen
Lisa-
Hopkins.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Who
Stephen
went on
Hopkins.
to do, oh my gosh.
Yeah, Ghost in the Darkness, and just a lot of really...
And TV, that
Yes.
TV show, I can't remember the name of the show. Anyway, can someone Google it? Anyway,
Something,
IMDb it.
Stephen Hopkins, TV show. And Lisa, you work with actually Rachel Talalay, who was kind of, I think, the unsung hero of a lot of the Elm Street series, just because she was so involved in like production
Yes.
assistants
Yes.
and
Yeah.
AD work and stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What was it like, respectively, working with each of these directors?
Well, for me, I mean, it was great. I always look at things as a new step. And with Chuck Russell, he allowed me to possess Kincaid as a black actor, because originally Kincaid was not for a black actor. And so I would tell him a black person wouldn't say this. And so he would allow me to be creative and say it the way I would say it. And so, but as a writer myself, I always felt that I had to respect the screenwriter. So he always would work with that to make it real. And with Brennan Hyman, I didn't know him that much because we was the old kids in Nightmare 4, so he was just trying to get rid of us, which I understand. Before the Romans get back, I understand why we had to go. I just didn't want to go there soon. And in Nightmare 4, there wasn't a script when we went in audition because the writers was on strike and they were just they just gave us synopsis. So Rennie Highland had Rodney and I to come and he sat down and he talked to us. So both of them had their own techniques, but they was techniques that I could deal with and could grow from. And that's what I liked about it.
No, that's interesting about the script because I think because I was like the last person cast because they couldn't find their Alice and stuff. So I actually had a script to read and audition from.
Excuse me.
No, I didn't know there was no script. I'm learning from you, Ken. I'm learning from you. And in the beginning there was no script. That's just crazy.
There was no script.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Oh man.
He was just fucked up.
And you're like, sure, I'll do a movie with no script.
But I have to say this because the kids of Nightmare 4, they were so gracious to Rodney and I. They embraced us when we came on. You know, a lot of people say that there was some tension. There was not one bit of tension. Mm-hmm. The first person that came to Rodney and I was Tuesday night. Everybody on Nightmare 4 was angels. So that rumor that's going out was tension. There was no tension at all, was it?
No, not at all. No.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah, you hear it here. Yeah, people just like to create rumors.
Yeah,
whatever.
And sometimes you create rumors, you get free publicity. Because at one time I was paying $1,500 for a publicist. If I knew I could tell a couple of lies and get it free.
Oh, you're kind of anyway, so Rennie Harlan, I like to call him sort of an actor's director. Like he's very approachable, and you can, I was off on my honeymoon, so they had some read-throughs and whatnot once everyone had been cast. And on set, it was like, I remember the scene at the Crave Inn. So I'm Alice in my waitress uniform, and I'm finding what I want to do with what's before me, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to polish the silverware. So that's what I'm going to do is before the scene starts, whatever. And there's this amazing shadow happening on the wall there, and I'm like, ready, look. And I said, look, and I'm holding forks, and he goes, oh, in his accent that he does, and he takes the forks out and gives me knives, and of course, so you have this quick little, foreshadowing Freddy Glove's shadow on the wall. And so what I'm saying is we got to play, and invent together and add to things that weren't even written in the script. So, and that's just an amazing place to work, to have that freedom. And then Stephen Hopkins, more of his focus is he's an amazing artist. He did all the storyboards. He could draw like you can't believe, and he was very involved in the production value of like the Escher set and all that kind of thing. So so different styles, but both brilliant in their own way. Yeah.
Very cool. And what was it like working with Rachel?
She just had the energy of someone I might have gone to school with. I felt like we felt like peers somehow, you know what I mean? We just sort of spoke the same language, and we were really chill, and it was really easy going, She just had a very familiar energy for me as a person and as an artist. And so it just unfolded real simple. She was even the 3D aspects, people always ask me, was that complex? And I don't recall it being complex. I mean, it was just, she's like, okay, so what you gotta do is you gotta, she's like very, really, and then just like, yeah, okay, yeah, that was pretty good. All right, yeah, let's move on. Lunch. It was just, she was really chill.
Oh my gosh. I have a story about Rachel, just real quick. Just
please.
So I'm on my honeymoon, and they want me to come back early, and this is like paid for Hawaii, okay,
Hey.
but I've just gotten the role of a lifetime, right? So anyway, they wanted me to come back early because they wanted to do test shoots, which often happens. That's also, and I did come back early, even though it was prepaid hotel and all that kind of stuff. And my husband, meaning ex-husband, was not happy about it. And he was in the business. It's like, you get a role like that. Anyway, so we got, God, such
Never
a jerk.
marry an actress.
No, right. So, exactly, bye. But anyway, Rachel was kind enough, I think it was out of the production money, or it may have been her own money, she gave me like $300 to help compensate for
That's so
the loss that we had. And then there's another thing about Rachel I'll never forget. She hates white tennis shoes. She will never own them. She always wears sneakers.
Yeah, she did
remember?
wear sneakers.
But never, she said, oh, never white. Never, ever white. Anyway, that always cracked me up. So ever since then, I've had an aversion to buying white tennis shoes. Anyway.
One of the things that I think, one of the reasons why these movies, these sequels endure, I think, is because of these characters. And I think it's also because, it's partially, of course, because of what you've imbued in them, but it's also because I think that each of these characters undergoes a pretty intense transition. I mean, Kincaid, I think, starts out as, he's always a badass and he's always a wise ass, but he starts out as a misanthrope, and you really see him open up and become engaged with the other kids, as it progresses. And then, of course, Lisa, with Alice, you're dealing with, basically growing up at an accelerated rate.
Right.
And when it comes to Catherine, no, I'm sorry, I'm flubbing on the name of your character,
Maggie.
Maggie
/ Catherine.
Catherine, thank you. That's why. And she's got a whole history and issue with her heritage that comes up as the movie progresses. This is kind of meaty stuff for a horror movie. What was it like kind of chewing this over and working on this with the directors and just with yourself?
Well, don't you find that horror movies always have incredibly meaty things to play, like compared to a family drama? I mean, the stakes are insanely high always. And
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, that's what's so fun about this genre, is that, like, it's deep stuff. It's really, like, psychologically heavy, like, tragedies and I mean, this whole idea of delving into dreamland alone is so, Jungian. I mean, it's like, it's heavy stuff, horror. I can see why, it's such an enduring genre and so, heartfelt, and and when it catches you at a young age, it's indelible. It stamps you, and it forms you, and I mean, it's because it's such deep stuff masquerading as something else,
Popcorn
something
entertainment,
popcorn. So anyway.
No, yeah, and I think in particular, A Nightmare on Elm Street is a very intelligent series, and it delves into these real issues that we are dealing with, And I think there's other, like Carrie, to me, is like my favorite horror film, and like deals with these real issues. And I think I like to say too, like, Alice, Nightmare 4, shy, has to grow up, accelerated, but the character arc, but she's dealing with real things, and the death of her mother, her father's an alcoholic, and very real. Nightmare 5, to me, I call it the brave little film, because that one dealt with things like, sex before you're married. This is 1989, okay? Teen pregnancy, abortion. Gee, isn't this fun?
And it sort of is. It's the crazy thing, and that's the wonder of horror,
And recovered now alcoholic father, death of a brother, really. I forgot, bulimia and anorexia. Let's just throw that in there too. So this little film really dealt with some heavy heavy stuff that was not dealt well with, you know, it's, what's the word I'm trying to use, but it's something you just didn't want to talk about.
The hot button
you know.
issues that you really
Yeah,
don't want to.
in 1989.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
so.
yeah, and Ken.
I think that horror is just simply basic life. You know, when we really get down to it and try to define it, horror is living life. You know, when you, for me, when you finna get your virgin, trying to get your first piece, it's horrifying because you don't know if you're gonna do the job. You know? Everything is horror. You know, and then one thing I like about Nightmare 3 is that it reached a lot of levels. There was drugs, there was mental illness, there was everything in it. There was bravery. Because we was put in a room together, there was unity. We learned to be individuals, but we came together in a fist and knocked shit down to get what we had to do. It's that simple. So it is life. It is horror. That's why I think the horror fans are some of the best fans in the world. I'm not trying to go smoke up gas. I think it's because they understand horror, understands life more than any emotion out there. Horror.
Absolutely. Well said, sir.
I gotta write that down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about some of the adventures on the set. All of us have seen these amazing sets, these amazing special effects set pieces. Do you have any specific stories or set pieces or adventures on this front that you care to speak about?
Oh gosh. I mean, it was, you know, fascinating to see because there was not just one crew running. There was a second unit, a third unit during all this filming, and you'd be walking around and you're like, oh my gosh, how are they, you know, how they build the things and how they did these practical effects, no CGI. And Mick Strawn wrote a book called Behind the Screens. He was main production guy for Nightmare 4 and many other things, but his book is fascinating about how he would have these meetings like, so how are we going to turn this girl into a cockroach? You know? And how are we going to get Alice in the theater flying and then into a theater screen and then do that, which was like 14 different setups. It was the most complex scene that he'd ever done. So it was fun, though. It was fascinating learning experience, for sure.
And how about you, Ms. Zane?
My great memory is the fight scene. I love that so much. That was so great, especially with Robert because he's so great physically. You know,
Yeah.
he can take a punch from a little puny bicep. Anyway, so that was all really well choreographed and really just satisfying, like winging knives at him and then, you know, struggling on the floor. It was just a blast.
Which actually segues nicely into the other thing that I wanted to ask you about, which I'm sure you're asked a million times. Robert Englund, anyone who's met him knows that he is so highly regarded as just an incredibly kind and erudite man, and obviously there's a lot of respect for him as an actor in this room. What were your individual experiences like working like one-on-one with him?
My experience with Robert Englund, if you close your mouth and listen to Robert Englund for 10 minutes, you feel like you just sat in on a Harvard class about entertainment life.
Definitely.
Because Robert he's a Shakespearean actor. He has worked with some of the greats of the great, like Sir Laurence Olivier. And he's not selfish. He loves to pass his stories on to you. So just 10 minutes with Robert Englund, you have gotten a whole year at Harvard or Yale School of learning what life is about in entertainment.
Yeah. And with that said, too, his knowledge is so varied. We spent a fair amount of time in the makeup trailer because they had asked me to dye my hair and to the red. And I was a little nervous about that, so I said, let's do a rinse. And they said, okay. I should have just dyed it anyway, because it ended up turning red, because you can't throw red paint on a white wall. It's going to turn red. Okay. Anyway, but the opportunity was, and he's getting makeup put on, right? So we had plenty of time to chat, because they're putting this rinse on my hair, and that took time, and then the blow dryers on both sides of the head or whatever. But we would sit there and just chat. So he's being put together as, Freddy, and he's remodeling his bathroom. So we're talking about grout colors. Okay. And then what kind of design is he going to do this bathroom and stuff like that. So anyway, but that's Robert.
That's true. Yeah, he could be suspended from something and just talking about whatever, about
Exactly.
his fetish about Audrey Hepburn when he was there. I love that skinny chick.
But was he doing it in the Freddy voice?
funny.
I love that. That was the question. Before I turn it over to the audience, I did actually want to touch very quickly on kind of some of your non-acting activities, because Lisa Zane, you have a very interesting musical career. I was actually listening to a lot of your music over the last week. I'm very fond of the kind of chanteuse subgenre, Edith Piaf, Uta Lemper, that type of sound. So I really dug what I was hearing, and I really love your cover of "Love Is the Drug" on the Monkey Bone soundtrack.
Monkey Bone soundtrack. I wish that was released.
I do too. That's a great song.
I know it was produced by Ann Dudley, and she did an amazing job with that track.
Absolutely.
Kind of trancey version of it, yeah.
But tell us just a little about your musical career.
Well, like in around 1998, a club owner, famous club owner in Los Angeles named Michel Lamy had a really chic club called Les Deux Cafés. And out of the blue, we had mutual friends or whatnot, she just came up to me at a party and said, "You are going to sing in my club." And I said, okay. And that was it. And I summoned my pal Andy, who I went to high school with, and we used to play together, almost in preparation for this. One day we're going to pull something together, Andy. Yeah, we are. Okay, let's do The Man I Love. Okay. Anyway, so I said, Andy, we've been summoned, and so that's it. I just every Tuesday I sang in this club, and the crowds got bigger, and then I said, I'm going to New York. And so I dropped everything and went to New York, started to write songs, and started to perform really regularly as a nightclub singer, and just love it to death, and have continued to do it. I have 2 records now. I'm actually working on my 3rd. And I lived in Paris for a while. I did it there. It's been terrific. It's just been so satisfying. Just being able to do something live again. Because once you say goodbye to theater and you move into film and TV, it's kind of really hard to find space to go back to that. But this seemed like a going forward.
Yeah.
But I get the live kick, which is the best.
Oh,
and then
absolutely.
Songwriting is I think it's one of the best uses of your time, to sit down and write a song. Because however long it takes, there it is, this 3-minute thing, and it just goes on and on. People can sing it, they can listen to it, it's just I just find that it's an amazing thing to do. It's a great thing to do.
A creation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's
And
short. It's not trying to I'm going to make a movie. Good luck. I'm
Yeah,
going to write a song. You can do that.
you have to deliver something with kind of sucker punch immediacy when you're writing a 3-minute song. So that's I can understand that. I respect that.
Anyway.
And Wilcox, you have had a very successful career as an entrepreneur with jewelry. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we, Tuesday night and Kristen, we hadn't seen each other in quite a while, even though we lived in Studio City, the same city. But anyway, we bumped into each other, and at Staples, that's what I remember, talked for an hour and a half. Anyway, she was doing these illusion band toe rings. So think of a stretchy band, and with a charm on it, adorned with Swarovski crystals. A flower, a mermaid, a palm tree, okay, for your toe. So anyway, she was looking for a partner, and so we partnered up. I invested some money, and her mom, who's a hoot, great salesperson, whatever, and we were getting little boutiques, local boutiques and whatnot. And then we got Long's Drug Store, which is no longer in business, but think of CVS.
It was huge.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a
Right.
huge chain.
Was it?
Absolutely.
Huge chain. So we're like, how are we going to fill this order? Because you have to understand, I was buying the materials, the Swarovski crystals, creating the, whatever, it's a long story. But anyway, our girlfriends were making these for us. So I'd buy the dowels and this and that, and they were at home making it and whatever, and then we'd pick it up. And we started from home. This all started from home. It was growing. Long's Drugstore. Anyway, we got a third partner who actually already had a factory in Pacoima, close to Los Angeles, and office space. So now we had office space, we had a factory, and we were able to fill the Long's Drugstore along with many, many others. Whoa. Anyway, this little company grew. We had huge distribution in Japan. I did Shopping Channel out there. We were in all the major department stores. We were in boutiques all over the United States and England and Australia.
Awesome.
So we were in all the magazines, free editorial.
Wow.
We went to a party with the Friends cast. And all the gals, Lisa Kudrow, can I have a cigarette? Because I smoke, whatever. Anyway, and they loved our toe rings. They loved them. So
what's it called?
It was called Toe Brights.
Oh,
Toe Brights. So, and then we grew and we did anklets and necklaces and earrings and all kinds of stuff. We were in Kitson's. We were in, all the chic shops. So
that's awesome.
It was pretty amazing to have that happen. Then the recession happened and our boutique owners couldn't pay their invoices and... yeah, so we had to close down.